how does Tavi subdue Gyarados at the end? He doesn't. Katai does. She's been training with Alara the same as Tavi has the entire time. I mean, Gyarados is big and mighty, but Alara is the whole continent. You know, she really knows what's going on, you know, better than anything else out there. So actually, any of the High Lords could probably have squared off against Gyarados and made him go back to his corner, you know. But in this case, it was Katai handling it while Tavi was finishing off the war. So back here in the Plaid. Why did I base the Dresden books in Chicago? Oops. Because my writing teacher would not allow me to set them in Kansas City. They started off as a school project, and they were originally set in Kansas City. And she read them and was like, well, you're going to sell this. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you'll sell this. I don't know if this will be the first thing you'll sell, but this is a professional quality, and you will eventually sell it. And she says, but one thing, you can't set it in Kansas City. And I'm like, well, why not? She's like, you're already walking close enough to Laurel Hamilton's toes that you don't need to set this book in Missouri. So set it somewhere else. I'm like, where? She says, anywhere. It doesn't matter. There's a globe in her office. On the globe, there's in America, there's 4 cities. One of them is New York City, which I don't want to use because superheroes have that place all sewn up. And my editors lived there and would catch every city mistake I made and sneer at me. DC was one of the other cities, and I didn't want to write DC because if you write DC, you have to write politics, and you're gonna piss off somebody. That's how it works. LA was there, and I didn't want to use LA because it's Los Angeles. Well, what can I say? I didn't want to write in Los Angeles, and that left Chicago. So I was like, "How about Chicago?" And she's like, "Great, fine, Chicago, whatever, use that." So that's why Chicago. I wish I had a much more sophisticated, intellectual, philosophical / literary answer for you, but the fact of the matter is, I wanted an A. So. Yeah, I did actually. Yeah. Yeah, in her class I did, and then in the other, I actually wound up getting thrown out of the writing program there because I ticked off a professor in another class, and so he arranged things so that I did not get to come back to finish my master's degree in professional writing. So, yeah, so I'd considered panning the professional writing program there in my author, biography and everything. Cast out of the University of Oklahoma's professional writing program. Author Jim Butcher somehow nonetheless has managed to blah-de-blah, blah-bloody-blah. But my writing teacher, Debbie Chester, who really taught me everything I know about writing, kind of came up to me and was like, Jim, I'm not saying you got treated fairly because you didn't, but, I'm not saying you need to say anything nice about the writing program because I get that you don't like it right now, but you're going to be really good, so please don't pan us. And I'm like, okay, fine, I won't. Okay, Debbie, you're cool.
She leaves.
But anyway, yeah, at the back.
So now we have to ask, what did you do?
He was the dean of the school, and when he checked with the professional writing program, I was in his class, and when he checked with the professional writing program about who to send to represent them to speak at the big yearly alumni dinner, Debbie said, send Jim. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And he says, I just want you to say a few words about the professional writing program and how it's going. And I'm like, okay. Well, what do I say? And he's like, well, just speak honestly about what you think. And I thought he meant it. So I showed up and was like, well, parts of it are really, really great and are really awesome, but there's all these other parts that are very frustrating for professional writing students because they have nothing. We're taking all these journalism classes that have nothing to do with actually writing a novel and getting it done, yet we're being required to do it. And this is a master's program. You're supposed to be focusing on a specialization at this point, and not the survey undergrad stuff. And so I said that. And so on my very last paper in his class that year, he marked off exactly enough points on my paper on comma placement in the paper to make sure that I got a C- in his class, so they kicked me out. Or a C+ in his class, so they kicked me out. And then they lost my application to get back in 11 times. Yeah, they made it really clear, so. Yeah, exactly, right? No, I'm not the kind of person who leaves, who stops after the first failure, So that was the only reason I got published at all. Right here.
So, two-part question. Max Ale. I'm a home brewer, and I've been trying to figure out what kind of beer this is. And
Okay.
I really need to know what you base this off of, so I can try to make a version.
Okay, Max Ale is based off of my imagination and my brain. I'm not actually a beer drinker. I don't like beer a whole lot. I don't. I'm more a cider kind of person. I went to Sweden last year. Oh my gosh, the cider they have in Sweden. Oh, it's like drinking a really, 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 really good, like premium draft soft drink. Like I had this pear cider that was it was amazing. Except it would also leave you unconscious if you had more than 2 or 3 bottles of it.
I brew cider. I'll send you a bottle.
Oh, okay, well. But yeah, but it mostly came from my imagination and from my beer drinking friends and their descriptions.
Okay.
So
There's that. And my second part is, are we going to see Mac actually do something other than what he's done so far, like actually pull out some big runs?
will we see Mac do something other than what he's done so far? Maybe. You'll get to find out more about him. At any rate, whether you'll actually get to see him doing stuff is still a really serious question. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out as we go. But here at the back. How do I come up with my names for people, places, things? Mostly I look at them and I look at the meaning of the name. I've got a giant book of just names and their meanings. And I generally try and find something that is either appropriate to the character for the name or completely inappropriate to the character for the name. One of the two. And then use that one. So, I have the guy who is, the professional trader and name him Fidelius, which means faithful. And so on. So, but.
For best use of dinosaur and a Western saddle.
Thank you very much. Yeah, zombie T-Rex. It's hard to top that. It really is. I'm still working on that because that was so much fun. But thank you.
I don't know, Santa Claus and Halloween was pretty great.
How on earth does anybody get around anywhere in Chicago in 20 minutes? Because the travel
Oh yeah, how does anyone get anywhere in Chicago in 20 minutes? When you're on a T-Rex, you don't have to wait for lights. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was just boom, 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 boom. Get out of my way. And as we all know, we clocked the T-Rex at 35 miles an hour. So if you can drive 35 down that street without stopping, you can get there that quickly. But I want to make sure I'm not missing somebody who's like around on the sides here who's got a question. No? Okay. Here at the very back.
Yeah, I was wondering when we're going to see dragons again, or will it be in the near future? Will it be in the capsule?
When we're going to see dragons again? Dude, I can't possibly do a dragon thing unless it's a whole book. So that would be book 20 or 21, something like that. Probably 21. I think 21, yeah. That seems about right. But, yes.
So speaking of Molly and Ramirez, at least going into this short story, what's the status of their technical or non-technical virginities?
The question is, what's the status of Molly and Ramirez's technical/non-technical virginity going into this story? That's awfully personal, don't you think? Molly's is still technically intact. Ramirez, we don't really know, and I don't think it becomes clear during the course of the story. Well, it kind of does, but you'll have to read it. But yeah, real personal question. Dude, seriously. Here at the back.
Will we ever get into who's the mole in the Vatican?
Will we ever get into who's the mole in the Vatican? Is that what you said? Oh, who keeps letting the coins loose? Yeah, kind of, but at the same time, the coins, it's sort of necessary for them to be out in the world. I mean, that they're not designed to be kept in a vault somewhere and locked up. So it's very, very difficult for anybody to guard them, for example, because the coins do the one ring thing to them until they get loose. But yeah, I mean, they've been spread out in all kinds of different places, and really the best you can do is to pick a guy who you hope is as close to incorruptible as humanly possible, and leave him in charge. So, Yes.
Two questions. We saw Hannah Hammer do a lot of really precise magic. How much of that was her versus Lexio? And then how much of that knowledge is around
Okay, how much of Hannah's magic was in the last book of her precision stuff was her as opposed to Lashiel? Much of it was Lashiel. Hannah was basically providing the muscle, and Lashiel was providing the direction. So she was way better than she would have been otherwise without Lashiel there advising her. As far as how much will Bonnie know, you'll have to see. The problem with Bonnie is not that she knows a lot; it's that she doesn't know how to apply anything. Like she can tell you all about green and how many nanometers the wavelength of light that the color green is, and so on. But she doesn't understand that grass is green yet, because she hasn't seen it. When we first, if you don't want any spoilers, cover your ears. But when we first join in Skin Game, in the first couple chapters of Skin Game, Harry comes home and Bonnie and Maggie are in the kitchen making pancakes because Bonnie has informed her that there are 317. She knows 317 recipes for pancakes, and the ingredients that they have make 17 of them possible. And so they're trying to make pancakes from this, but they don't really know how to tell when it's time to flip the pancake over. You wait till it's golden and brown. How do you know it's golden and brown? It's on the pan. It looks white from here, So, Harry gets to walk in and Bonnie gets to turn around and say, "Pancakes are inanimate." Very excitedly because she just figured out that they're inanimate objects. Bonnie's got a long way to go before she'll be anything. But she's where Bob started. So.
When are we going to see more of Ivy and Kincaid? And I'm assuming Ivy knows that Kincaid is one who shot Harry.
When are we going to see more of Ivy and Kincaid? And does Ivy know if Kincaid's the one who shot Harry? The answer to that question is we'll see more of them next book, and I won't tell you that. Yeah.
What exactly is a Havel, and why do Justine and Murphy smell?
And why do what?
Justine and Murphy, they both smell like strawberry.
Oh, that's true. Well, it's because for Murphy, it's because it's because they use the same shampoo. They use that green Suave. And that's why it's really good shampoo if you want to grow your hair long. I mean, it's excellent. It's got no silicates in it, so it doesn't abrade the hair. Don't ask me how I know that. Anyway, what was the first part? What exactly is a Havel? A Havel is one level of the one floor of the spire. So and since the spires are about they're these giant circles they're these giant squares about 2 miles across. It's a 2 by 2s, so four square miles. It's the size of a small town, and so each one, or actually even a not so small town, it's a significant portion of Manhattan. 4 square miles. So the Havels are those each level. Each one has got about 50 feet of space. That's the Havel. You go down the ramp. There's another Havel. Down the ramp. There's another Havel like that. Yeah.
So we know why you chose Chicago. Living around here, one of my favorite parts of the series is when something that I recognize from landmarks shows up. And I'm not waiting to get oh my goodness. So two more questions. One, how do you research that detail wise? Because you're spot on. And then the second one is we know in Ghost Story that Harry goes around in theaters. And with the recent closing of several private theaters in the area, there's not. So is there any way that we can after the theater can get into
Or was it Aurora?
Okay, in the first place, I do my research mainly these days by these days I can actually afford to come to Chicago and look. So I do that to a degree. And then, originally I couldn't. I had a couple of guidebooks of Chicago, and that was all I had to go on. And then after a couple of books came out, I had some readers who lived here, and then I could talk to them about it. And now I have Google Maps, and more importantly, Google Street View, to where I was actually to the point. I mean, and that's useful to the point that I actually had a member of CPD SWAT approach me and say, listen, the scene that you set up in the short story, The Warrior, where you had the guy on the roof and you said specifically which lights were out to have the approach and so on, so that the sniper would have the best point of view. I checked that out and you were right, and I need to know who you consulted about that kind of information, because we sort of like to keep track of people with that kind of information. And I was like, I just played Call of Duty and looked at Google Maps. Like Google Street View, I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, God. Oh, yeah. Oh, I have a scale model city in my basement. I use that. But anyway, so as far as the driving, I get a lot of requests for, could you please destroy this for Chicago? So what's the what? The McHenry? Uh-huh. Yeah, he's busy being a dad. So.
You gotta take your kid to him.
Right. Oh, well, plus, I think he worries about showing up to the movie and having a hit squad show up to handle it. But let's do a couple more questions, and we'll sign some books. Yeah, over here.
Is there any word yet on the children's series that I heard you talk about with Molly and Maggie and Mouse?
No, because I've got to have enough time to write it. I'm still getting caught up. This year, personally, was like this really intense, amazing / awful roller coaster for me. So I'm a little bit behind where I need to be. But I'm getting caught up now. So as far as when I'll do that one, it'll be eventually. Hopefully before too much longer, though, because that would be fun. Plus, I'm planning on writing that one with my sister, and so I would only have to do half of it. So that's like maybe 3 or 4 short stories worth of writing. So I could really kind of rip that out in a couple of weeks and get that done. So that would be very cool. That would be extremely fun. Maggie is a great character because she's been through a lot and she has a lot of social anxiety issues. I mean, she genuinely needs Mouse as a service dog next to her, to help her stay cool and deal with people. And so she has trouble, she has trouble in enclosed spaces and trouble in open spaces. And I mean, she's got a lot on her mind, except when everything is like totally going to hell and on fire, at which point she's completely normal. Because she's Harry Dresden's daughter, so it's, I'm comfortable here. Okay, I know what to do. But yeah, blue shirt, blue plaid, yeah.
We're going to find out which Paul actually said those 7 words. I know when I still kind of
You've probably gotten all the answer you're going to get as far as that goes, as far as which Fallen said that. I mean, I'm not saying that Lashiel lied about everything or anything, because she could have. It could have been one of the others, but Lashiel was the one with an axe to grind. So, okay, guys, thank you very much, and hold your questions, and I'll answer them while I'm signing books if you like. And I appreciate it. Thank you.